Now, what is kind of, I guess you could say the real brunt of the early fighting is going to happen in the Gulf of Gela. So here I have this map right here. Actually, it's a little small. Let me just boost the size for the audience. So this is in the American sector. It was the area of Gela was defended by the Italian 18th Coastal Brigade and the 429th Coastal Battalion, led by Major Rubellino. Near Niscemi, the Italian 4th Livorno Division, supported by Italian Mobile Group E, was positioned at Ponte Olivo with they had some obsolete R-35 tanks as well as Fiat tanks, which we have a lot of
The
experience with.
cappuccino machines.
Exactly. In North Africa, those fantastic Fiat tanks. As I look at my driveway, my wife owns a Fiat. They would soon be bolstered by 9,000 troops from the 1st Fallschirm Panzer Hermann Göring Division, supported by a regiment from the 15th Panzergrenadier Division. Now, at 3:36 a.m., the 1st Infantry Division, they began landing on either side of the Gela Pier, with 300 men from the 45th Division's 180th Regiment inadvertently landing west of the Akati River. Before Allied air support could even arrive, Axis bombers began targeting the transports, managing to sink the USS Maddox at about 4:58 a.m., and they also damaged some LSTs and some small boats. Upon landing, the Rangers were immediately met with fire from Italian pillboxes and coastal batteries as they tried to storm the town of Gela. By 8 a.m., they had captured the town, several artillery pieces, and 200 Italian prisoners, inflicting almost about 200 casualties in the process. Meanwhile, the 16th Regiment, they're advancing towards Ponte Olivo, encountering strong resistance from the 18th Coastal Brigade. At about 8 a.m., vehicles began to land amidst artillery and air bombardment, quickly congesting the beaches. Yet by noon, no tanks or artillery had actually come ashore. By 7:30 a.m., the Livorno Division launched a three-pronged counterattack to try and recapture Gela, supported by 45 tanks. The Rangers in Gela utilized captured 8-centimeter Italian artillery, and they directed the USS Sherbrooke's fire against the incoming Italians. An Italian column did almost manage to breach the roadblock manned by the 505th Regiment, but they would be pushed back by the recently arrived 16th Regiment. By about 9:10 a.m., the USS Boys opened fire in support of the Allies. To evade the naval gunfire, Italian tanks charged towards the beachhead, but they would ultimately be halted by the 16th Regiment, who just come. As the Italians were withdrawing, the 16th Regiment then occupied Biangolupo by 11 a.m. At 1:30 p.m., the Hermann Göring Division, supported by some bombers, attacked the 16th Regiment at Piano Lupe, while the 15th Panzergrenadiers, backed by 17 Tiger I tanks, launched an assault on the 180th Infantry Regiment. Faced with naval gunfire, both Axis forces were forced to withdraw, just as the 18th Regiment began landing at about 5 p.m. However, Axis bombers continued to inflict pretty serious damage on the landing forces, and at about 2 a.m. on July the 12th, the first Allied tanks were beginning to land. At 7 a.m., the Livorno Division launched another three-pronged attack against Gela, while the Hermann Göring Division and the 15th Panzergrenadiers assaulted the beachhead, which was now held by the 1st U.S. Infantry Division east of the Gela River. The Germans gradually pushed the 26th and 16th regiments towards their vulnerable beachhead under some naval gunfire. At 8:45 a.m., as the German tanks advanced to within 2,000 meters of the beachhead, 60 American tanks suddenly charged forward, with every available man pressed into service, and this would include cooks, clerks, and naval personnel. Everybody joined the
Um,
firing lines. Yeah, they're fighting over literally sand dunes against this enemy.
but I guess that's also like the biggest risk of any amphibious assault. They don't
Yeah.
have heavy equipment yet. But can I just say how amazing it is that within less than 24 hours after like you with the paratroopers, you get a drop, you had 60 tanks on just this section of the beaches.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you have to give credit. It's the naval forces are having to be the artillery for the Allies' beachhead. It's pretty insane what they're having to go through. If this was the Pacific War, on some of those islands, this would have looked really bad. It would not have done
Yeah.
well.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned the Allied navies because these guys have been fighting so much
Yeah.
that they actually reached a point of frayed nerves that uh like General Ridgway, when his next regiment would be moving forward, he was trying to practically beg naval officers that can you guarantee you not fire on my men as they come over because they are coming from this direction
Yeah.
because the navy's been on high alert, especially since with nightly Luftwaffe attacks before they eventually stop.
Oh yeah. But ultimately, with U.S. naval gunfire support from ships like the USS Boys and the Savannah, the Axis forces would be repelled after 7 consecutive attacks against Gela and the beachhead itself, until about 10:35 a.m. when they finally pulled out. Incredibly
By the way,
touch and go situation.
the boys and Savannah were light cruisers, so
Yeah.
they are firing a lot of 6-inch and 5-inch shells to support the troops.
Oh yeah. Now, by dawn on July the 12th, 90% of the convoy had been unloaded, and at 8:45 a.m., the 1st Infantry Division did finally capture Ponte Olivio's airfield. It was secured. At 5 p.m., General Patton established his headquarters ashore as aircraft from the 12th Air Force began landing A-36s at Ponte Olivo. The American beachhead was secure now after suffering a lot of about 2,300 casualties. I mean, this was a hell of a counterattack by the Axis forces on the beachhead. It was intense. They also lost a destroyer, numerous smaller landing crafts in the process. The Italians had suffered approximately 3,350 deaths, 5,000 wounded, and 2,000 captured, while the Germans reported 630 casualties. Within 3 days, the Allies had successfully landed 163,000 men, 600 tanks, 14,000 vehicles, and 1,800 pieces of artillery, inflicting about 15,000 casualties upon the Axis forces altogether. Now, a quarter of Sicily was actually under Allied control, and the beachheads were secure. So they were now poised to, direct their efforts in what would be the next part of the operation, and that is to cut Sicily in half. But that'll be for the next episode because this would be far too long if we did the entire Sicilian campaign
Sure.
in one episode. But before we let you go, audience members, if you'd like, please consider checking out the YouTube membership or the Patreon account at www.patreon.com/the Pacific War Channel. By joining either of these, you get access to the exclusive podcast series. It's 25 episodes now. Last time I checked. You also get early access to all the content I make and voting rights for the subjects I will tackle next. But staying at Gera, thank you again for joining me on an episode that kind of brings us back to when this all began.
True enough, and for once, neither of us took each other hostage.
Yeah, this is actually one we both know. Usually it's one or the other.
But my
Definitely.
pleasure. Thanks for having me and looking forward to continuing this campaign. We have quite a lot of interesting developments that are going to be taking place as well.
Yeah, Montgomery and Patton are gonna meet. They're gonna shake hands, share drinks, be really happy together, and they're gonna say that they'll both
Not
take
only
their
this,
time.
you're even going to see it by General Omar Bradley and General Oliver Lees as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there's personalities that get involved in this, and it gets even friskier when it's in Italy because then you get the French involved and a lot of other international units. But
Okay, that I can understand why it went south.
oh yeah. Till next time, guys. Over and out.